Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sending the Wolf. My name is Clarke Wolfe. It is so nice to have you all here and to see you. This is our first Tuesday stream of the cycle. We're officially a Tuesday stream now, and we're kicking it off with a really wonderful guest. I have a bunch of your questions for him. You probably have heard or seen. I know a lot of you have actually seen Hard Eyes. You've been commenting about it in the chat. You've been saying some of you have seen it multiple times. So I know he's going to be thrilled to hear from you. So as always, please feel free to be active in the chat, even as my guest and I are talking, and I will pull your questions and your comments and share them with the rest of the stream and with our guest. So feel free to lurk or feel free to say hello. Without further ado, let's bring him in. We have the screenwriter of Freaky and Heart Eyes and It's a Wonderful Knife and so many of your other favorite things that are yet to come. My dear friend, Michael Kennedy is here. Hi, Michael.
Hello. I want you to follow me everywhere we go. And
I'll be your hype lady.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello, this is great. Thank you so much for being here. You know, obviously we're buddies IRL, but
Yes.
this is so cool for not only for me but for chat, for this wonderful, community that we have here on the show, because everybody here is a film and pop culture enthusiast, and I like that my chat and my community is, they're like more informed than the average bear. And so it makes having these conversations really fun. So thank you again for being
Of course.
here. And I'm seeing here in chat, Nicholas Vargo, who's a regular here in chat, says he has seen Heart Eyes multiple times and no regrets in doing so.
Yeah, it's great. We've had Josh Rubin and I, the director, were talking a couple hours ago today. And that's something we have been seeing a lot, is multiple viewings by people, which is great, which is always a good sign, so that's really exciting and great to hear. I hope people see it multiple times.
Well, and it seems like they sure have, because this weekend Hard Eyes did something that essentially no slasher movie or no movie ever does. Honestly, yeah. I know we were framing it like within the context of in the horror genre, but if we're being real, it's very rare in this day and age for any movie to keep at level or increase their box office on second weekend. And Hard Eyes did that. So can you talk a little bit about, like, I personally am not surprised by this, because I thought it was a brilliant strategy to release Hard Eyes, which had great reviews, great reactions, the weekend before Valentine's Day, knowing that people were going to want something to see and want something to do. So can you talk a little bit about, like, getting that news, and were you surprised?
Yes and no, just because, well, like, to do some like stat throwing at you after we got the news and started looking into like just the history of that kind of thing. Only 2 other slashers have ever done that who were released wide. Like a ton of movies like do that, platform release, and then they blow up the next week when they go wide and stuff. But to start wide and go up in gross from week 1 to week 2, the only other 2 wide release slasher movies to do that were Terrifier 2 and Scream, the original Scream. So like that was crazy to be in that company, and then on further inspection, only 147 other movies have done that in history.
Crazy.
So like that was an insane thing to find out, that like we're the 148th film, at least according to the box office mojo statistics. So like that's fucking wild. Like, so it was really exciting. It's still kind of shocking a little bit, to be quite honest with you, because we went in, the opening weekend numbers were fine. I know we spoke as like a team, like people who made the creatives, and we also spoke with the studio and stuff. and they were a little underwhelmed, to be honest with you. Like they had anticipated, I think they had, they told the trades they were uh tracking at like 7 or 8 million for the weekend, but I know behind the scenes everyone was secretly hoping 9 or 10.
Mhm.
So 8.3 was a little bit under where everyone was kind of hoping we would start. Um, so there was felt like a little bit more pressure in the second weekend because, you know, it just didn't land where they were hoping it would. But I know for the longest time, the reason the seventh was picked by Sony was they thought that there was a potential to have growth in week two, or at
Yeah.
least have like a similar second weekend. And that was the hope going into the weekend. Was we were given numbers of about 7 million um behind the scenes. 7 to 8 million is was the anticipation behind the scenes. And early Friday we were being told the gross for the day was looking to be 3 million, and it ended up, by that night I got out of seeing Companion. My husband and I went and saw Companion Friday night for Valentine's Day. And when I got out of the theater, I had a text from Josh Rubin, and he's like, "Dude, we're landing at 4.9 for the day." So I think we all knew there would be a Valentine's bump. I don't think any of us anticipated it being a bigger Friday than the opening Friday, because we ended
Yeah.
up, like when you counted previews and stuff for the first Friday, it was 3.7, but when you took previews out, it was 2.6. So we essentially like doubled our number. So it was nuts. And it like kind of kept going up over the weekend. It was like, oh, internal numbers and the trades were saying 8 million for the weekend. And then suddenly it was 8.5. And then it was 8.8. And then it was 9.8. And then it was 10.
Yeah.
So like it was really exciting because I think a lot of us, you know, Hard Eyes was an amazing experience in the sense that like one of my great friends ended up directing the movie, and Chris and I were really instrumental in him getting that job. So that felt really good. Um, Helping Josh Rubin get his first studio gig.
Yeah.
And we got to work again with Adam Hendricks and Greg Gilreath, who produced Freaky, and they've produced Megan, they produced Knife. So like we were really excited to work with them again. So like behind the scenes we had this like family like atmosphere, and then with casting we hit like a home run. We got, Jordana and Devin and Mason and Olivia and Gigi, and like loved every single one of them. They loved each other. So there was like, by the time we were wrapped, it was like a huge family environment. So like everyone was really invested in the film, more so than I think, at least for me and anything else I've done, because there was such an investment with the people. Like I
Yeah.
loved everybody and I still do. So we all really want to make another one.
Yeah.
Like we went in going before the movie even came out, we were like, we want to play again. So like the first weekend we were kind of like, oh, did we just lose that chance? And then this second weekend has kind of given us new hope that we could eventually get to do another one of these. So yeah, it was an awesome weekend. I can't deny it. It was awesome.
It's so exciting, and it is very yeah, the whole story is inspiring. Sam in chat says, I love both Heart Eyes and Freaky. Nicholas says, I also saw It's a Wonderful Knife multiple times when it was out in 2023. Your writing rocks,
Thanks,
Michael.
Nicholas.
Stephanie says hi. Richard says hello to Mr. Kennedy. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the metrics of all of this. Like I just okay, so first of all, the fact that this original slasher movie, a studio got behind it and said, we're doing a wide theatrical release.
Yeah,
That is already just so rare at
it
this
is.
point.
It
And
is.
and so, obviously with within the slasher space specifically, you're always wanting to do a sequel, right? You're always thinking about,
Yep.
what comes next. Oh, and Melissa in chat says, here to pop in really quickly and say, I loved Hard Eyes. It's underrated. But so my question is, in order to get a second one, and of course you don't have to get into specifics, but like
Right.
obviously you want positive reviews, obviously you want a solid box office, but were there specific goals that you had in mind that, or that the studio gave you? You can only do so much as a cheerleader, but like, were there goal benchmarks you were trying to hit, basically?
Not necessarily in the beginning. Chris Lannon especially has a really big philosophy about just um, not getting ahead of yourself. Like, don't count your chickens, essentially. So when he and I write anything, we don't really talk the idea of, there ever being another one,
Right.
especially since we don't ever want to do anything creatively that we're holding back because of a sequel
Yes.
or anything like that.
Yes. Like, no save it for the sequel kind of
Yeah, none of
attitude.
that
Yeah.
shit. Like, it's like put all of our eggs in this basket, and
Yes.
the beautiful problem later would be trying to think of more stuff to do, right?
Right.
So, but when I got to set, I actually went to set for a little bit on this one, and I within the first hour I was on set, I was there the last 2 weeks of filming.
Okay.
First hour on set, I walked in and we were on a soundstage, and I was watching and just kind of just being a spectator for the first hour or so, because I didn't really know anybody. Um, I felt like I was kind of invading something that was already going on for a while, and I just felt this energy. Like, it just felt really great, and it made me a little bit emotional when I walked in. I felt like there
Mhm.
was something really great going on, and just saw Josh's energy, and the cast was just so bonded, and the production crew was a fucking fantastic and stuff. So I actually text my husband right away and said, I'm getting a really amazing freaky vibe already.
Mhm.
And I text Chris Landon and said to him, I feel like I'm back in Atlanta with you on Freaky already. I think we might be making a hit movie.
Mhm.
And he was really excited to hear that. So, like, on set was when I was there, we started talking about a sequel a lot. To be quite honest, we started talking about it because, someone from Spyglass was there and the producers were there and stuff. And we talked about it a lot because for me and like the cast and Josh Rubin and Chris and the producers, like, when we saw an edit of the movie, we hit our benchmark was we made a great movie.
Right.
We did our job. We made a fantastic movie. So, like, yeah, those are the kind of benchmarks I put forth, but then eventually becomes a thing where you have to kind of let go and just hope Sony does their job, and the movie speaks for itself, and like all those things are kind of starting to really come together here in the second
Yeah.
week. And Sony, I thought, did a fantastic campaign, and I thought that they did a really good job not giving up on the movie. I think some studios might have gone, oh, 8 million's kind of okay. We're not going to invest anymore. But they emailed us Monday morning last week and said, look, it's not a home run yet, but like, we're really behind this film, and we're actually going to treat Valentine's Day like a second opening weekend.
Yeah.
And here's
Smart.
like our plan. And we got this huge plan from them. And that felt really good. And then we started getting grosses and stuff during the middle of the week, and our numbers were starting to go up slowly. And so we're like, oh, is something happening here? So
Yeah.
for us, it was really like, what is the creative benchmark? And we hit it. Like, I really truly believe we fucking hit it. We made a great film. Um, so then a lot of it is just like, wait and see, like,
Mhm.
there are specific numbers that the studio wants to hit before they'll officially greenlight anything. We're getting closer, so that's good. Um, but Chris Lannon, I think his philosophy is really good of like, like, just don't get ahead of yourself,
Yeah.
so
Well,
like, yeah,
and like you said, I mean, your job is to make a great movie. Like, there really is only so much you can do. And you are so good about being a cheerleader on social media. Josh Rubin has been so active on social. The cast has been active on social. So it's like, and then the studio, like you said, they've got to do their job. And,
yeah,
it sort of is what it is. Melissa said, had a blast with the movie. And so did my theater. Hard Eyes definitely has franchise potential. And Sam is saying, I can see a sequel for Hard Eyes.
yeah.
Um, so I actually, for chat and for people, anybody who's finding this and doesn't know, Freaky is I want to pivot to Freaky because it's come up a couple of times, and uh I know because I'm friends with you, like the release of Freaky was very challenging because we were in the middle of COVID,
Right.
and you and Chris are like, we wrote this slasher comedy. This is meant to be experienced with other
Yes.
people,
Yes.
not in your
Yes.
home
Like,
alone. Which,
not
for the record, though, that is how I watched it. I watched it at home, and I was dying in
you,
my room, you
and in
know.
a
But
weird way, it ended up being, like, it's upsetting in the sense that like it didn't get, I think, the love it could have gotten, but
yeah,
also there was much greater things than the movie going on at the time. But it was also really satisfying to hear at the time too that like it was a reprieve for a lot of folks.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
was like a really good dose of like joy that people needed. And weirdly, Hard Eyes is kind of feeling like the same thing. And I was actually telling my husband the other day, like, I got to stop having movies come out as a way for people to get rid of the fucking shit going on in the world.
yeah.
But like, also, like, it feels good knowing that, like, I've had many people message me. And like on Hard Eyes, I've never had more people, strangers, message me after seeing the movie. But I've had a lot of people say, like, oh, so much fun. I needed that fun.
That's
So,
and
yeah.
you know, as a horror fan, like and a slasher fan, traditionally horror movies do very well in times of frustration
Mm,
and struggle, and so it is a wonderful like reprieve, for us, for the
yeah.
audience.
Same here.
Yeah,
Like it was really fun writing Hard Eyes at the time we were writing it, and yeah, the thing that you mentioned, like going back to like the original movie with a theatrical release,
yeah,
that is one good, really amazing thing about Spyglass is they only believe in theatrical.
yeah,
They truly try with everything they've made to make it a theatrical film. Like,
yeah,
and that was one of the reasons Chris and I were attracted to it before the strike, because our deal closed well before the strike. And
yeah.
then we had to sit out a whole strike waiting to like write the movie. But that was one of the things when we read the original draft of the script and going in and becoming part of the project that was already kind of existed, was the theatrical of it all. It was sold to us as a theatrical film,
Right.
and I think more production companies and studios need to think like that in order for original films to work in the theaters, because if you're apprehensive or kind of holding back because it's an original and you don't want to take the budget risk or the marketing risk, well, you're just doing a disservice of film.
Yeah.
Like you got to go all in, or just like, what are you doing? And I that's what they did with this film. They went all in.
So, there's a great question here in chat, and actually, they are not the first person to ask it. So, Mirror Domain says, "What was the original inspiration for Hard Eyes?" Now, you are a huge slasher fan, but you're also a big comedy guy, and so I. What is the like? I know your influences, right? But can you talk a little bit, not only about the influences, but like this Heart Eyes killer, like where and when did that come up?
So Philip Murphy, who is the other writer credited on the movie,
Mm,
wrote the original draft of Hard Eyes a few years ago. Um, and Spyglass had this script, like a completed script called Hard Eyes with the Hard Eyes killer.
okay.
Um, and it kind of, they it just kind of, I think it was kind of a little dormant for a year or two. So they asked, when Chris was going to do Scream 7, they asked Chris to read the script and kind of get his eyes on it and just to kind of see what he thought. And he read it and really responded to the killer. Like, it was kind of a genius, simple thing that someone created, that Phil created, of this killer wearing the hard eyes emoji as a mask, and killing on Valentine's Day. Um, so Chris felt a little inspired after reading it. So he's like, I want to bring in Michael Kennedy, who I do work with on some stuff. I want him to read it because I really think this is something that we should be doing together. So
Mm,
I want to get his point of view of this script. before we decide anything. And I read the script right away, and I had the same thoughts as Chris that, um, you know, there was something there with this villain. And Phil, you know, he had a little bit more of a straightforward slasher, and more of a Michael Myers style killer, where like the killer wasn't revealed at the end, and it was, you know, it was a little less of a rom-com and more of kind of a hardcore slasher. And Chris and I really responded to the elements of his script, of the romance that was in his script, but also felt there was a chance to really lean into that more and
Mhm.
kind of do what we do, where we kind of mash up films. We thought it would be a really fun opportunity to mash up like two total genres, not just be like Freaky Friday the 13th, but literally be a slasher rom-com. And when Chris pitched it to me as the goriest we can make the goriest rom-com ever made, that was what really sold it to me, as like, oh, I know what we're doing here.
Right.
So like we kind of took what these foundations that Phil laid and kind of put just our stamp on it, you know. And he was really, you know, it's really hard to be rewritten. I was completely rewritten on time cut to the point that like the movie isn't even recognizable to me.
Mhm.
So I like, you know, I really give Phil credit for like embracing our involvement.
Mhm.
You know, we did press together, the three of us, which is super rare, you know, because we didn't really work together on the film, but like
Mhm.
I really loved like the team aspect of it all. And like Phil eventually said it was like he did enough did as much as he could with the baton and then handed it over to us, you know.
Yeah,
Which is great because it's really satisfying when two separate entities can kind of feel like they're represented in the final product still.
for
Um,
sure.
but Chris and I really love the idea of taking the Scream kind of formula with the movie and upending it a little bit, in the sense that like there's literally no connection with the killer reveal in the main couple. We wanted it
Mhm.
to be just like, you know, Chris and I knew going in, and Phil had a little bit of this in his in his killer version of his killer, that everyone was going to expect Jeremy Melton or Harry Warden, who are like love scorned dudes that kill.
Mhm.
And we were like, what if it's like the fucking opposite? And like it's
Mm.
literally like their love language. We thought that was so funny and so Scream yet anti-Scream at the same time, where it wasn't like, I'm your long lost brother, or like you're my mom, you know, like I'm your mother or anything like that. It's just like they just happen to be in the crosshairs of these people.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, like we had a chance to do some like really, really fun shit that we wouldn't really get to do otherwise, I don't think.
for
You know?
sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I also have I wanted to share ZSH's question. What were some of the horror movie influences, if any, top of mind when writing the script? So you mentioned Scream. You mentioned obviously you knew kind of what you didn't want to do in terms of like the romance of it all. But I also wanted to ask, and I think someone else in chat asked about the rom com like influences. Like, did you pull from any romantic comedies in specific, or was it just more of like a mashup in your mind of everyone knows the beats, kind of the way in Scream, everyone knows
Yes.
the beats of a slasher movie?
It
Yeah.
was more of that. Chris and I don't usually tend to watch stuff to research when we write.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't want to get mixed up in cribbing anything or purposely repurposing something. You know, sometimes a lot of, I find it really funny as like as a horror writer and a person who knows a lot about the genre, it's funny how much viewers probably know more than writers half the time, because like
Right.
people will say, oh, this connection, and I'm like, news to me, but I'll take it, you know. But we did know that we wanted to use kind of the Scream formula,
Mm-hmm.
but put it in put in every single rom-com trope you could think of.
Yeah.
Airport, horny best friend,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like literally use the rom-com tropes the way Scream used slasher films.
Yeah.
And so our inspiration was the genre as a whole.
Right.
So it was like literally sitting down one day and going, okay, what are like the biggest rom-com tropes we can literally think of? And we put them all in the fucking movie. Like we put as
Yeah.
many of them as we could in the movie. The meet cute, the the running to the airport is a big one.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the studio actually wanted us to cut that scene, and we actually like really we're like, no, you don't understand. Like this is such a trope. And we always thought, and every time we talked about a trope, we're like, okay, what's the different trope? What's the different angle of this trope? Like the dressing room montage is a really good example that we had to pare it down. So like ultimately the trope we were trying to upend didn't make it into the final product because it just was slowing the movie down. But Chris and I had this really funny thought, and Josh actually ended up doing the right thing by making Allie look really cute for the dinner and stuff. But Chris and I actually, when we wrote it, we had her going from, you look like a before picture and doing this dress up and then leaving the dress up situation and she's back in her original outfit. And Monica's just like, sorry, it didn't work out. And like for us upending the trope was she ends up leaving in the same exact outfit that she got there in. We thought that was
Yeah.
really, really funny. Because we wanted her to like continue kind of being this jaded woman who doesn't even want to try. But Josh brought a really great POV on that situation of going, but she cares about stuff. She cares about her job. She probably does
Right.
want to look pretty and like professional and all this stuff. So like ultimately the decision was good, but we took those tropes and we would sit and go, how do you make this different?
Sure.
That's why there's like one of my favorite parts of the movie, it's not a rom-com trope, it's a horror movie trope of them literally sitting in an ambulance with blankets over them
Yes.
and then having the EMT literally take the blankets back. We
Yeah.
thought that was so fucking funny because we're like, what would happen in that situation? Like these movies, the EMTs are busy. What if she got another call at the end of the scene? And Chris is like, and then they take the blanket back. I'm like, that is really funny. So like
Yes.
we kind of looked at every scene in that sense. And what's really funny too, you mentioned the comedy aspect.
Mhm.
Chris and I had a really funny conversation last week yesterday about how we never considered ourselves comedy writers,
Mm-hmm.
and that with Hard Eyes especially, he said he felt it a little bit in Happy Death Day and Freaky with reviews, but he's like, our comedy is getting called out more than ever as
Mm-hmm.
like a strength. He's like, so maybe we are comedy guys, like,
Well, and
you
you
know,
worked for Seth MacFarlane for a
yeah,
while.
true.
So I wanted, like, I think that's good though. Like
Yeah,
because I know a little bit about your history before you broke through, right?
yeah,
I know that you are a pop culture connoisseur in a lot of different ways and working at Family Guy, and you were a writer on Border Town, right?
Watertown, yeah, an animated
Yeah.
comedy like a
Yes.
decade ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is exciting and cool. And I
yeah,
think that we all know, like now we're having the conversation more and more and more. Horror and comedy are cousins, they're siblings, they're two
yes,
sides of the same coin.
exactly.
But if
Similar
horror
beat.
com yes, but if horror comedy were easy, more people would do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's like, the thing I'm really proud of with Freaky and Hard Eyes now, especially, is like we really threaded a very small needle.
Yeah.
Hard Eyes was the hardest script I've ever written. Um, and I love Freaky. I love Freaky so much. It'll always be my baby. It's where Chris and I solidified our relationship that started as a one-off thing and has become a multiple project thing. It solidified our friendship. It solidified my fucking career. It's done so much, but I can't help but be more proud of Hard Eyes just in the sense that like we really did something risky
Yeah.
and it's really paid off in a lot of ways. And I love seeing the movie really represents for Chris and I a lot of growth in our working relationship. So that's it's been a really satisfying experience. I'm really proud of the movie, sequel or not.
Yeah.
But all the things I'm telling you about the movie are exactly why we want to go do another one. First of all, we have an idea that we know is, like Chris said, is a reason to make another movie. But like the whole band is dying to get back together. Like
Yeah.
Mason calls me every day, like, what's going on? Are we doing it? Are we doing it? Olivia is like so invested. Gigi, like like I was talking to Krista. I was like, can we get Michaela Watkins back? We got to bring her back. Just, like in the further we get out from opening day, the more it seems to be a conversation that everyone's having.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping we get to go down that road again.
So shout out, I'm a huge Michaela Watkins fan and was wondering whose idea was it to cast her as Crystal Kane. She stole all three of her scenes, a
Amazing.
fabulous Southern accent, and of course, eagle-eyed viewers will recognize Michaela from Josh's movie Werewolves Within, which, chat, if you have not seen Werewolves Within, I don't even know if Josh remembers this because we did it like this. It was virtual, but I hosted something for Activision or Blizzard
Oh,
where
no shit.
where he and Sam were the guests.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
yeah, and
I'm sure he remembers.
we watched through the entire movie and just
No
basically
kidding.
did a
How
live
did I miss
commentary.
this?
Yeah.
How did I miss this? That movie is so great. Literally got Josh's job. I mean, granted, he had to pitch on the movie and like give his take and stuff, but that movie really made everyone go. Because I will say, early on in the process, I said to Chris one day, I go, "What about Josh Rubin? Like, have you seen Werewolves Within?" And he's like, "No, I haven't." I was like, "Watch that tonight and let me know what you think." Chris calls me the next day and he's like, "I think he might be a good wild card idea." So then Spyglass watched the movie and they were like, "Huh, this is an interesting idea." And then Josh just blew everyone away with like what he would do with the movie. Chris Landon texted me during the middle of their meeting and was like, "He's gonna get this job." He's like, "It's not," he's like, "We're still here and he's not gonna, he's gonna get this job,
Yeah.
But Michaela Watkins was Josh's idea. There was a lot of discussion on her, on that character. She was only one day. We only needed the actor for one day. And there was a lot
Wow,
of
she shot one day.
one
That's
day. It was
great.
literally those scenes with her were the entire day. And there's so much that isn't in the movie that we filmed because she is so terrific at improv.
Oh my God.
And it turns out all the younger actors are terrific at improv with her. So like there's so much stuff that we had to cut just because it was like this ending scene in the conference room could be 20 minutes if we really wanted it to be. Plus her two assistants that have like a few lines in the film, Tommy, and then the Jane is her actual name. She's not said in the movie, but Jane, the ones like I think a lot have been killed. They're both very major, huge comedic stars in New Zealand. So like they're both like so fast. So like the three of them at one point, it literally was like the two cameras were just on the three of them at one point in one take. And I'm just like, what is happening? But like Josh didn't want to call cut because he's just like, this is all so good. So I'm hoping there's
Let
a lot
it
of
roll.
extras. Yeah. But it was Michaela was Josh's idea. There was, of course, what if you got like Jennifer Coolidge to do a day type conversations?
Yep.
And then Josh was like, "I don't know, man, like my buddy Michaela could nail this." Because we wrote her in the script. We described her in the script as a Dolly Parton like transplant in Seattle who hates everything. That's why, I saw someone go, "How the fuck does this person with this Southern accent live in Seattle?" And I was like, "Have you ever heard of moving?"
Yeah.
Like,
she got a job there.
yeah,
That's how.
like she moved there.
That's how.
So like it was her idea to do the accent so specific, and then the hair was her idea and all that stuff. But yeah, Josh was like, "I really want Michaela for this," so everyone really got on board, and he just made a phone call.
That's great.
And
Yeah,
then she was like on a plane like 4 days later. It was
wow.
fast. It was like it was the last role of the movie cast too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, she was great. I'm just looking through chat. Sam says the airport scene might be my favorite comedic moment in the movie.
It's so good. It's so
And
good.
Melissa says, I love that the dude was the romantic and the girl was the jaded one. And she was a great final girl. Kicked
Yeah,
butt.
but Olivia Holt, I told her, and I said, "I'm not saying this because it's our movie." I was like, "I think you might have entered top 5 final girl territory for me."
She is great.
She
And
is
I've been seeing
great.
so many people too shouting out Olivia and just this like kind of I know obviously she's a working actress. She's been in a lot of things, but like this felt like a real kind of breakout moment for her.
Yeah,
Um
Totally Killer, I think, set the stage for her, and then Hard
yes,
Eyes was like the full.
sealed the deal.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk. I have this question here that I really, really like. And it's about sort of networking. So the
Mm,
question is from JCASF's any advice for part-time hobbyist screenwriters who want to network with the experts? So, and I'm gonna sort of pivot this question a little bit because I think a lot of times people think, oh, network, network, network,
right.
whatever. But finding partners and finding people, creative partners, and finding people who have your back and who believe in you and who support you, to me is like that is the secret to this industry. And I personally, and you don't even know this, but I personally have been really struggling with this lately. Like, there have been some projects that I have going on behind the scenes where it has become abundantly clear I do not have anyone in my corner. And it is really frustrating and
Yeah.
it's hard. So, can you talk a little bit about, obviously your talent is like unquestionable, but like finding those creative partners or networking and like meeting people where you feel like it's your creative tribe.
Yeah, first off, I think the biggest thing, just in a general networking types answer, is uh, people can sniff out users and abusers and bullshit really quickly,
Yeah,
and don't do that. Like, it's the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they meet you and then they ask for something.
right.
They expect something right away. And I made that mistake when I was younger. Like, it's just, I think you're so anxious and so everything feels so urgent because you really want to do this thing. And it took me a minute to learn the value of networking. And what I mean by that is networking is almost really just friendships.
Yeah,
Like, the terms are, for me, are a little bit more interchangeable because you want to establish a relationship that's not based on tit for tat before there's any tit for tat, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like Chris, my relationship with Chris is a great example of, I'm hosting a podcast for Blumhouse at the time, and I didn't know Chris, but was a huge fan of Chris, and it was a queer horror podcast. Chris and I are both gay. I reached out to Ryan Turek, who helped put the podcast together, and said, "Hey, can you get me Chris Landon?" Him and Chelsea Stardust got me Chris Landon.
right.
So Chris comes on the show, instantly click. Like, during recording, we click. And I had emailed him. He okayed them to give me his email before the show. So I emailed him to invite him on the show. We clicked during the show. We had a lot of fun. We, just kind of just, yeah, it clicked. We clicked. So the next day I felt very comfortable
Hmm.
emailing him and just going, "Hey, I had a really great time with you on the show. I thought you are wonderful. I'm a huge fan. I really appreciate you coming on. If you're ever up for coffee, I would love to grab coffee with you." And that's all I said. And Chris replied, he goes, "Yeah, I would love to grab coffee. Like, you seemed really cool." So, like, Chris and I started getting lunches like every few weeks.
Yeah,
And it was never, for me, secretly you want it to be like, "Oh, I hope something comes of this one day," but it was never the goal. It was like, foster a relationship with this really cool person. And like, I could learn from this guy.
yeah,
That was the hope then. And next thing you know, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and Chris and his husband are having dinner, and we're just getting to know each other. So that when, like, I'm getting ready to take Freaky out as a project on my own, I happen to be having lunch with Chris and telling him about it. And he offers to help me get the project ready to present to Blumhouse. And in that experience, of him meeting me the next day and looking at my work, it went from helping to going, I actually want to make this movie if you're cool with it. You know what I mean? So it was like a very natural progression of things.
Yeah.
And, I recognized his excitement of the pages of mine he was reading of my treatment for Freaky. And I felt comfortable enough in that point to go, hey, is this something you would want to do with me actually? And he goes, yeah, actually I would. So like he was kind of like turns out I was hoping he'd say something, but he was hoping I would. So I finally just said something.
Yeah.
And the reason we continue working is in that process, we became even better friends. So like we just like spending time with each other and we like working with each other because it's very seamless and easy for us to like, there's no pretension. There's no ulterior motives. It's like we have the same goal, so like those, I don't know about words of wisdom, but for me, telling that story, I think is a really great example of how to do it right. But I also think the person that asked the question, if it's a part-time hobby,
Mm-hmm.
you really want to invest any time in networking if you ultimately don't want it to go anywhere. It just
Right.
depends. Like, do you want friendships? Then sure. If you're hoping the hobby becomes a full-time career, you internally have to network with yourself and go, if I want it to be a full-time career, I need to treat it like one instead of a
Right.
hobby. So yeah.
That's a good point, and a good question. Speaking of Queer Wolf, this is from our friends at Macabre Daily. They say, just to thank you for the
uh,
charity episode that you and Attack of the Queer Wolf pod did.
it was
So
fun. I'm glad we did it. And Nay and I are talking about doing another one because we had so much fun doing it.
we love Nay.
I know she's the best. If
Love.
you're familiar with her from Attack of the Queer Wolf, she hosts a podcast now called Today and Gay. That's a daily podcast, and you should listen to it. Was created by her and Jasmine Savoy Brown, who plays Mindy in the new Scream films. So,
Yes, and our tie from Yellow Jackets
yes,
as
young
well.
Ty.
So from Brian Knight, Brian says, question for Michael. Are there any existing horror or non-horror IPs you want to make? Or do you prefer sticking with original movies?
I'm very proud that I'm 4 for 4 on original films.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's pretty cool. It's like a cool thing to be able to say. But of course, I mean, Scream, I would be stupid to never want to do a Scream movie. Yeah, Scream is definitely, I mean, I think there's a lot of horror projects I would be hard pressed to say no to,
Mm.
quite frankly. So I think the list of IP I wouldn't want to play in is probably shorter than the list of IP I would play in, if that makes sense.
And what about outside of horror? Like, are there any franchises or like, I don't know, projects, adaptations like that because, you and I have joked for years about a horror sitcom, which is
Yes.
like my dream job.
Yeah. Yeah. You know
um,
who wants to do a horror sitcom, by the way, that I should talk to you about after this?
yeah.
It's Freddie Prinze Jr. and I have talked about it because Freddie and I have the same manager. So we got hooked up on like a client date a couple years ago, and Freddie and I became friends from that coffee. And I told him I've always wanted to do a horror multi-camera sitcom.
Yep.
And he was like, "What? Oh my God, I want to do that." He like thinks it's so funny.
Oh my
So
God.
sidebar, the three of us should maybe have a conversation. He
Done.
mentions
Sign
it
me
like
up.
every 6 months. He texts me and he's like, "What's going on with the sitcom, bro?"
If we
Um,
can crack it, man, I'm
yeah,
telling you,
yeah,
like it would be great.
it would be really good. I think it would be very different and new.
Yes.
Any non-horror IP?
Like, I actually don't know this about you. Are you a like do you have a well, you talked a little bit about wanting to do something in like the action movie
Yes, Chris and I
space.
actually wrote an original action film that we are hoping to still get off the ground in some way. Um, it's a queer action film, so there's a risk involved with rolling my eyes with that because
Yeah.
action movies aren't cheap. Um, but Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love action films. I think that's a lot of a thing people don't really know about me. I really do love, like, I love the Die Hard series. I love the Lethal Weapon series.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun. I don't know, because like I always think, like Chris and I talked about when we wrote our action movie, we pitched it as kind of like a queer James Bond, John Wick style movie.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't want to go into one of those franchises and like make the main character queer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if an action IP I would want to play in.
Yeah.
Um, Especially since those are so of their time when you think
Yes.
about it. You know what I mean? Even though there's like 5 or 6 diehards, those first 3 really feel like of their moment.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't have any desire, quite frankly, though, to play into any major IPs like the MCU or anything either. So,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know,
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I would love to do, maybe I would like play in like like American Pie. I don't know. Like,
Ooh, I could see that for you.
yeah, I could see myself taking the original cast of American Pie and doing something with them at middle age, which I
Ugh,
think could be interesting. Like
that.
American, what could they call it? American midlife crisis.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about like what's a middle-aged dessert?
Yeah.
American cute.
Middle-aged American creme brulee.
Yeah, basically. Oh my god. Well, okay, so speaking of franchises, loved this question from Film Critiques 20. Are there any plans for a Freaky Death Day movie? I have a few ideas.
So do we. No plans, no plans as of yet. It's something Chris and I do discuss every so often because we both, he still really wants to do a Happy Death Day 3,
Yeah.
even more than a Freaky Death Day. Um, we do talk every once in a while. It's like a wish movie where there's a way to do Freaky 2 and Happy Death Day 3 as one movie. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, no plans. We wish, no plans. But the good thing is our idea doesn't require Millie or Tree to be any specific age.
Ah,
They can
that's
be
exciting and fun.
25 or 55. It wouldn't matter.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, we had another question actually on the Patreon from Lowell. Oh, and we might have actually, Lowell, we already answered it for you, but I just wanted to shout him out on Patreon. Question for Michael Kennedy. I loved Hard Eyes. Which romantic comedy and slasher films were the biggest influences? But we talked about
Yeah.
that. So can you talk a little bit about it seems like the movie's been out for like 2 seconds and it's like, so what's next?
Yes.
But you always have so much in the pipeline. But I know there's a lot you can talk about, some you can't talk about. So like, is there anything coming up that you can like that you can talk about? Or is it just all
Yeah,
Hard
I
Eyes
can
all the time?
actually. It hasn't been announced of me being involved, but they did make an announcement like a year or so ago when the studio and the producers made a deal. But there's a graphic novel by the name of Paradise Court that Screen Gems uh, Screen Gems owned or licensed or whatever. And I'm writing the adaptation of that. And
Okay.
the quick log line on that is essentially it's a gated community run by serial killers.
A
So
gated community run by
yes,
serial killers.
so the graphic novel is about a bunch of college kids that go to this gated community for spring break and are killed by these homeowners association members.
Wow.
Um, I'm changing it up a little bit.
Okay.
It's not going to be college kids for spring break because my first thought when I read the graphic novel is like, what fucking college kids go to a gated community for spring break?
Yeah. That's not.
So I put a little bit of a different twist on it. So I can't really say what the movie's about, but I'm writing that currently. Who knows if it'll get made? But that is something fun I'm working on. And I will say Chris and I are doing 2 things together. that are set up at both at the same place, actually,
Great.
that we're doing together. And then I had a really great movie sell to Universal last year that I can't say what it is because it got a it got a really cool makeover once it sold.
Great.
Um, so yeah, I got a lot in the works, so I can't tell you about any of it.
Good. That's how it is.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
the
yeah.
it goes.
But they're not all slashers.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the Paradise Court is more of your typical slasher, but not typical because I do something really fun with that. That's different. But the other projects I mentioned, none of them are actually slashers, which is fun.
Great. That
And
is
I'm
fun.
so excited for the one because it's the darkest thing I've written. Uh,
Mm.
and it was really fun to get really fucking dark with something and be told it was scary as hell when they were reading it. So,
Yeah, I have just been thinking about because I'm doing a lot of research about what are people responding to on the internet, especially within the horror space.
mm.
And, I think to me what it kind of boils down to is people in general on the internet, they respond to celebrities doing stuff and which obviously, and then with horror though, I think people really want to be scared.
Yes.
Like they are ready for a scare. I had somebody bring up to me how incredible Neon's ad campaigns have been.
Been
And if
fantastic. Christian Parks is like, I
he's
don't know if people know who Christian is. He's the head of marketing at Neon and also runs Beyond Fest.
yes.
Fucking killing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so good. And doing with the monkey, but also with long legs.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, so the long legs thing kind of came up in a conversation about this project that I was meeting on. And so I really started to try to unpack like why? Why was that so effective? And the heartbeat kind of statistic and all of that. And I thought back also, speaking of, I thought back to that science test that they did on horror movies. What's the scariest?
Right.
And
And
like
Sinister, I think. Yeah.
Sinister and Insidious are in this like top five.
Yeah.
And I think people just really, really they're ready for a good
They,
scare.
they are. And I think they're ready for a good scare. Like this thing I was talking about that's really dark. It's also
Yes.
really, really, really entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving a little bit past um again, the times. I think we're moving a little bit past like the trauma,
Yeah.
you know,
Grief.
grief and subtext, like, oh, this movie is actually about this type movie. And I think people
Yeah.
really just want to be kind of knocked on their ass with a good scare and maybe a chuckle or two. Megan Navarro, after seeing Hard Eyes, she couldn't talk about it yet, but she really loved the movie and makes me really proud because I think she's one of the best out there that is writing about horror.
Yep.
And she tweeted after seeing Hard Eyes, she couldn't mention it, but she's like, I think everyone's ready for fun horror
Yeah.
in 2025. And I think she's right, but I also think you're right too. Whereas I think we can still go a little bit scarier with it. And I think you're going to see that. I think Hard Eyes is a really good example of it's hitting so many different
Yes.
buzzers that I think that's what people really want. It's satiating so many different types of audience. I can't tell you how many audience reviews I've read where it's like, oh, I went in expecting a scary movie and I ended up getting a really fucking good rom-com at the same time. And it's like a middle-aged dude that's saying that, like,
It's so frustrating too because the pressure that is put on if one rom-com is released in theaters and then it doesn't do well, let's say,
right.
then we can never do another
We'll have another
rom-com
one
again.
again. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also counterpoint with this stupid argument within our industry, anyone but you
Makes 90 million bucks.
makes, yeah, it clears $100 million in the theater.
Yeah. It made
And
like 200 worldwide or something.
yeah, and it's like but the trick I think, and this is to Sony's credit, is they let it stay in the theater.
That's the thing is I was actually looking at that because they had a Valentine's Day bump and I was like, referencing it when we were talking about release dates last summer when we were filming the movie. There was some people were kind of in the camp of like, let's release it on Valentine's Day. And I was one of the people along with Sony that was like, let's release it the week before. And here's why.
Yep.
And I was doing research, and Anyone But You was one of the movies I pulled up in my research because they went up like 170% from the day before to Valentine's Day box office. But the thing that's crazy about that movie is it made like 1.7 million on Valentine's Day, and it was like day 70 in theaters.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? It stayed in theaters for months. And it was like in week like 10, it was still on like 2,800 screens. You know, so
Yes.
like they really nurtured that movie. The movie only opened to like $6 million.
It was a real, like, it
It
really
was
just had that.
streamlined.
And also on top of that, that was during a time when I think we were post pandemic, or we were coming out of the pandemic, so there were not as many theatrical offerings
Right.
as people,
It was end of
as
2023 into 2020.
right. And so by letting it sit, you gave people who have their AMC A list or whatever, you gave them the opportunity to use it and to go see the movie,
Yeah.
You mentioned that you and your husband saw Companion on Valentine's Day, and another Mr. Lizard in our Discord actually brought up that, like, the release window now, it's going straight to digital. And for Companion, it's like the theatrical run is basically over.
Right.
And I loved the movie, but also, like, it felt to me like I saw the same trailer for literally 4 months before the movie came out. And I think audiences went, "Oh, we missed it." Like, cuz I saw that trailer like
Right.
in October. And then on top of that, I do think that the marketing team or whatever the decision was kind of like lost steam. They kind of
Yeah.
forgot to tell people that this original, scary, funny,
Mhm.
subversive, dark, like, movie that is great reviews across the board, very similar to Hard Eyes in that way, but
Yeah.
it just didn't catch. And I wish that movies like that had time, a little
Yeah.
more time.
Being nurtured.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a shame. I think people are so quick now to want to get it onto VOD if it doesn't make a certain amount of money right away, because they're like, well, then we'll recoup more money faster,
Right.
as opposed to like playing the long game a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because yeah, it's it had a pretty decent opening weekend.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like loses like 1,000 screens like on its third week. It's just like, well,
Right.
what's that? I guess you have to fight MCU getting all of them.
Yeah.
But
That
I
is
don't
true.
know. I don't know. I think there is something to be said about you got to make people feel, and we talked about this a lot with Hard Eyes, and we're hoping this kind of continues. You got to make people curious. You
Yes.
got to take like what happened with Hard Eyes this weekend and go pivot a little bit and go start putting out ads that are like, do you want to miss the movie everyone's talking about? You got to
Exactly.
make people curious to leave their house. And if you're telling people, well, it's going to be in your home in 17 days, why are they going to go to the theater in the first place?
Right.
So I get it, but I also just like, I don't know, there's like recoup as much as you can, as fast as you can, but sometimes just maybe giving it a little bit of breathing room, you end up recouping more in the long run.
There has to be a sweet spot.
Yeah.
So, okay, before I let you go, we're almost at time, but I did want to close with this question for Mirror Domains. What scene in Heart Eyes did you write that you were excited to see once filmed? The most excited to see once
The
filmed?
most excited to see, besides the ending in the chapel,
Yes.
I was most excited to see the van scene with Allie and Jay having their heart to heart while uh, the two hippies fucked in the back, because they did amazing work with ADR in that scene. But I want to say 75% of the stuff you hear them moaning and saying in the back during that scene was scripted.
Great.
I wrote that scene. I wrote the first pass of that scene. I know Chris did some work on it too, but Chris and I have a tendency to like split up scenes and go, here's your piece, and then we swap
Great.
each other. Like I get his, he gets mine and stuff. But a lot of the big jokes in that scene of the hippie couple were actually scripted by me.
Right.
I was so excited to see it filmed, and I was there when that was filmed, and then I was even more excited to see it with a test audience because it was so fucking funny. In fact, like the first cut of that was so long and so loud that we actually had to cut some of the comedy back because the test audience gave us a note going, we don't understand their motivations, and it's because they didn't hear any of their dialogue because they were
Right.
laughing over it.
Yes. Yep. That sounds. Sam says those hippies were
They
hippieing.
sure were. So funny.
Amazing. It
Yeah,
was
they
so
were
great. It was,
those actors were both really game.
yeah, it was
And
a great
they were
scene.
local New Zealand hires, so I was really impressed with them.
We love our New Zealand local hires. Although I can't be in any of your movies if you keep shooting them out of the country,
No.
Michael. So we've got a problem with that. But for now, we'll let it stand for now.
Yes.
Well, this was amazing.
So
It
fun.
thank
Thanks to your audience.
Yes, thank
Wonderful
you so
questions.
much for being here.
Of
And
course.
I can tell the audience, full stop. You have worked your butt off to get to where you are, and this is only the beginning.
I
And
appreciate
as
that.
your friend and as a fan, I am very,
Oh, I
very
love
proud
you.
of you. I love
Thank
you too.
you.
All right, my dear. Well, thank you
Thank
again for making the time and congratulations.
you so much.
All right. I see
Talk
you
to you soon.
later. Bye.
Bye.
OMG, everyone. I'm not going anywhere. We still have an hour to go. But how wonderful is Michael? He's just like the absolute best, right? And thank you all so much for all of your wonderful questions, not only in chat, but in the Discord, on Patreon, in Instagram, like all over the place. I loved all of your input, and it's a lot of fun. I loved Hard Eyes. I thought it was great. And I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to keep going, talk about some news. There's lots of fun stuff that to discuss. And in fact, we were just talking about Neon. Oh, good. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. That makes me so happy. I love seeing all of this feedback in the chat because I really, a little bit different this time around for Sending the Wolf. If some of you guys don't know, or some of y'all don't know, the podcast in the before times, I was definitely coming. Well, I feel like I have a lot more experience actually as a person who is involved in making movies or TV shows, like not only as an actor, but as a writer and trying to get things made. And so I bring this up only because I love talking to other filmmakers and other creatives. And I was hoping that that would be something that I could bring to this new iteration of the show. And so it really thrills me that you all enjoyed the conversation and enjoyed the interview. And for those of you who, Anthony de Blasi was supposed to be here with us today, but then he had to reschedule. And then we rescheduled Michael for today. So it all worked out. But as a reminder, this next Tuesday, so the show is officially moving from Monday to Tuesday. We have in the US just a lot of Monday holidays, and it just felt like, you know what, let's go ahead and like move this over to Tuesday. But Anthony de Blasi, director of The Last Shift, Malum, Clive Barker protege, he's directed thrillers, he's directed horror movies, he's directed crime movies. He's a wealth of information and fandom. And so Anthony's going to be with us next Tuesday. So my goal is to have more conversations like this once a week. So yeah, I thank you guys. Thank you all for participating, and I really, really appreciate you. So speaking of Neon, I wanted to share that last week I had the opportunity to attend the premiere of The Monkey, Stephen King's The Monkey, Osgood Perkins, the Monkey, starring Theo James, among others. Great cast, super fun. I don't know if you all are looking forward to this one. But speaking of horror comedy, by the way, this is a movie that really, really works in both respects. It is dark and it is scary, but it's also heartfelt. The relationships are heartfelt. And on top of that, it is really funny. It is really, really funny. So, Nicholas says, I have to wait until Saturday to see it. Is it great? I mean, I dug it. I really enjoyed the monkey. It is, and you know what else I think is cool? We were talking a little bit earlier about long legs, but I think that with this, Oz Perkins really was given the opportunity to make the version of the monkey that he wanted to make. So I say this because it felt very creatively authentic to Oz and to his sensibilities. It actually made me come home and re-watch Longlegs kind of with that in mind. And I have to say too, that was a really fun experience rewatching Longlegs because I picked up on a lot more this time around. Um, that script it made me really appreciate that script. The script is really tight. It is really thoughtful. It is really well orchestrated and put together. And I also, it really hit me how little Nicolas Cage is actually in the movie. And his presence is just so like, it's just so strong that it feels like he's in more than he actually is. But I'm seeing a lot of buzz in. Oh, and to answer your question, I did not get a monkey popcorn bucket. I went to, this was like not at a theater. It was actually at a church, of course, because of course it was. So I did not get the monkey popcorn bucket, but I did get popcorn while I was there, and it was very good. Popcorn actually was really good for being served in a church. Um, and I'm seeing some love for Companion in the chat as well. Y'all, I really enjoyed Companion. If y'all are members of the Discord, we have a little spoiler thread going for Companion. So if you want to chime in over there, but like I just really enjoyed the movie. But I did see somebody in the chat saying that they felt like it was a mistake to give the reveal away um about Iris. And I don't know if it was a mistake, although I did look at my watch when the reveal happened, and I believe it was basically 30 minutes on the dot. It was either 20 minutes or 30 minutes on the dot we get the reveal. And I was like, it's pretty good. I feel like Companion, speaking of screenplays, I feel like Companion is actually like that's a really great script. A really great script. Very funny, unique, timely, like, but also asks a lot of questions about humanity that I think, that I think we're all kind of toying with. Thank you, ZSH. I'm glad that you are along for the ride. And yeah, be scared to get the monkey popcorn bucket. That's very fair, actually. Um, Nick says, I saw it where Nicholas says, I saw what one of those popcorn buckets look like. I don't want it. It freaks me out just looking at it. That monkey is freaky. That monkey is very freaky, but I really enjoyed the monkey. I thought it was great. It was right up my alley. But then again, I like a dark, a dark comedy. And to be fair, I saw it in like the perfect atmosphere of just people who were like so on board with this movie. They were buying what this movie was selling. And I think if you have that energy going, that's like the best way to see it. Sam talking about Long Legs says Nick Cage, Alicia Witt, and Micah Monroe are all good. They're great in Long Legs for sure. Brian talking about Companion said, I don't think the ad campaign for Companion did a good job. Yeah, it just didn't really catch. Like it just, I don't know if maybe if they didn't believe in the movie. Like I don't know what happened there truly, but I thought the movie was great and it's a really fun concept. So who knows? Okay, before let's see. Da, da, da. Nicholas said, I think that was me who said that. And I actually meant to general audiences. When I saw it, I was glad that was only one layer. People must have thought that one reveal was everything. That's a really great point. That's a really great point. We were just talking about the anyone out there, hey Gishgali, anyone out there collecting all those fancy popcorn buckets, where do you keep them all? That is a great question. Um, Mirror Domain says Hard Eyes did a better job of handling the romantic parts of the story than The Gorge. Now, The Gorge came out this weekend from Scott Derrickson. I don't have Apple TV Plus, so I have not seen The Gorge. Saw a lot of people enjoying it. Actually, and it's so funny, Melissa. I was out last night talking to some folks, and they said this exact same thing. Melissa says first half of The Gorge is good and then a snooze. My friend actually said it's for the first time in history. It was that I was disappointed when the creatures and the monsters got involved. I was actually enjoying the romance part, and he was like, for me to say that is wild, um but yeah, let's see. So, okay, as far as the monkey goes, Melissa says, I feel like the tone shifts were too abrupt and the kills too ridiculous. They were, Melissa. They were definitely ridiculous. I was on board with the tone shift, but I feel you. I totally understand. Sam says the kills in the monkey were insane. OMG. Alan Smithy says Disney put the monkey with symbols in Toy Story and then copyrighted that monkey. So the monkey had to use the drum monkey. Oh, WTH Disney. Now that's really interesting. No, we did not already say that. That is really good context for sure. Nicholas says that Nicholas can't collect any popcorn buckets. No room. Yeah, same. I'm already packed to the gills. So okay, that's Monkey Corner. I enjoyed it. Go at your own risk. It is over the top. It is silly. I thought Theo James was great, by the way. I have seen Theo James, in White Lotus, and I have seen Theo James be a handsome person IRL. Like I have not seen a ton of his work aside from White Lotus, and I thought he was great on White Lotus. But that said, I think he's great in The Monkey. Very, very much enjoyed that performance. Okay, one more housekeeping thing, two more housekeeping things. Oh no, a couple of things I want to mention. First of all, any Patreon subscribers who are watching, if you are the $10 and up Patreon subscriber, up on Patreon, you can vote. We are doing our monthly movie watch along for our movie club. So go ahead and visit the Patreon, vote on your preferred date and time for our watch along, and also throw some ideas for the movie in the chat or in the comments section over there on Patreon. I wanna hear what you guys want to watch. Yes, Mike says, I'm still excited to see The Monkey. I thought it was fun. I really like it. Next up, friendly shout out. Let me actually pull this up. Oh no. Oh heavens. Wait a minute. My keyboard's not working. Stand by because I didn't turn it on. Here we go. There. Zombie outside. From one Michael to another, my dear friend Michael Varrati made a movie. Michael Varrati is a wonderful commentator, filmmaker, horror aficionado. He directs a lot of the Boulet brothers material. If you have, watched any of the Boulet brothers on Dracula, and his new movie, There's a Zombie Outside, is coming to. Oh no, verifying. What do you mean? I'm not a robot. There's a Zombie Outside exclusive trailer debuted today on Bloody Disgusting. It's a meta zombie movie and it bites into digital this March. So I have seen this movie. It was very successful on the festival circuit. Michael Varrati is one of my dear friends. I'm so proud of him. Just great, great stuff. here, written, directed by Michael. And by the way, for those of you who are filmmakers, this is a movie that Michael made because he was tired of sitting around and waiting for somebody to greenlight one of his movies. Like he just was like, you know what? I'm making my own movie and this is what we're doing. And he did it. And I think that that deserves like a big shout out because it is very authentic to him. It is meta, it is smart, and it's a fun little trippy flick. Great cast, by the way. Ben Bauer gives a really great lead performance. Yeah, Tiffany Shepis is there for any of you guys who are big fans. But yeah, I just really wanted to shout this out. So there's a zombie outside, hits digital. There's a fun little poster. Love it. Hits digital in March. So check it out. Gotta support our friends. Peaches Christ is not Peach's birth name. I can confirm. Peaches has a that's just what a robot would say. Hilarious. I know, right? Not all of us are AI or robot. Yep. um let's see. More the monkey. I haven't seen the monkey yet, but considering Oz's pedigree, I'll always watch whatever he makes. Yeah, he I think we were talking earlier about having somebody who's on your side. And that's so much of success in this business. It's just people who believe in you and people who support you. And I think that Oz has really found his groove with Neon. Like they get it. They get what his work is. They are behind him as an artist. They know how to sell his work. Like it's just I look at that type of relationship and I'm like, we as filmmakers should be so lucky to have a company behind you that just is all in on you as a creator. Yeah, I think it's very cool. Okay, so there's a zombie outside. Trailer is available now and coming to digital in March. And last but not least, I wanted to share because sometimes I like to make recommendations. Quick recommendation if you're into reading things. If you do a little Google search, I was able to find there's a prequel written by Stephen King to The Shining. It is called Before the Play. So it was written as part of The Shining. He cut it when the book was released. Then the prequel was abridged and it was released in like a magazine. And then there was one edition of The Shining that was printed that included the whole prologue. And so I found it online finally because I've been looking for it and I read it and I really enjoyed it. It's bizarre to me that I guess Stephen King doesn't want people to find it or he doesn't want people to read it. I don't really understand why, but it's basically 5 little sections of the history of the Overlook Hotel leading up to Jack Torrance, basically. Really, really fun, interesting. And of course, as you all know, like we talked about this with we've talked about it with, I love Stephen King's kind of lore, but he writes about haunted places or like the history of Derry or in the Shining there's a scene in the book where Jack finds a scrapbook of the history of the Overlook. So some of the stuff that is referenced like in the scrapbook is kind of featured in the prologue. And similarly, like in Misery, Annie finds a scrap or Paul Sheldon finds a scrapbook and learns about Annie's history. And that kind of was the basis for that Hulu series, Castle Rock. So anyway, this is to say, I read it. I enjoyed it. We're talking Stephen King with the monkey. So yeah, if you can find it or if you're interested and you want me to send you a link, just chime in either on Patreon or on the Discord or whatever, and I'll send it to you. But I felt like it was worth mentioning. Let's see. What do we have here? I haven't seen Long Legs yet because I have no idea how far it goes. Is it more screwed up than the monkey? This is a really interesting question, Nicholas. What I would say is that the kills in the monkey are more elaborate than the kills in Longlegs. But Longlegs, while it does have a lot of dark humor, Longlegs is definitely more of a drama. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of, again, like pitch black humor. Um, but it is definitely told, Longlegs is told more with a straight face. I like this comparison from Sam. Longlegs is more Silence of the Lambs, while the monkey is more Final Destination on crack. Yeah, it is. I think Final Destination is a really good comp for the monkey. Um, Melissa says Monkey is definitely a lost Final Destination movie by way of Stephen King. Yeah, that's right. Speaking of before the play and the lore, a lot of town lore in the Monkey as well. So a lot of good stuff there. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes, and I found some there's some fun stories that I wanted to share. Steven Spielberg, his new movie just shifted release dates. And of course, I did not pull up these articles because I was in a rush. Here we go. And also some updates with the Daniels new movie as well. So Universal is shifting around the major release dates for two major 2026 films. This is all next year. One from Steven Spielberg and another from Everything Everywhere All at Once directors Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. Spielberg's next film will open on June 12th instead of May 15th. It's taking the place of the Daniels Untitled movie, which was taken off the calendar for now. But the article does. Let's see. Oh no, not. We did not click on a commercial. I read something about the Daniels movie that said that they reported that it's not an issue. Like they need more time to get the script ready. So there's no real drama there. But the Spielberg project I thought was interesting, and I wanted to kind of just shout it out real quick. Spielberg's project, which also doesn't have a title or log line, but has been vividly described as a quote, new original event film, was relocated to add distance from the two big movies. Now, for some reason, so Bloody Disgusting, and we don't have to do everything horror, I understand, but I wanted to. Bloody reported this as a UFO movie, and I'm like, what sort of, uh aliens? Yes. Alan Smithy says, is the new date for disclosure being shifted not to conflict with real disclosure? Aliens will be revealed before the movie's release. So I love this, and I kind of wanted to like read a little closer here because Bloody is describing it in this way. Steven Spielberg is headed back to the science fiction arena with an untitled event movie that's reportedly centered on UFOs, and Universal has given the project a new release date. Steven Spielberg reteams with David Koepp on the film. Now, of course, here they reference the collaboration between David Koepp and Steven Spielberg on Jurassic Park. However, if you are like me and you are a War of the Worlds stan, you will remember that David Koepp also was a screenwriter on War of the Worlds, which of course I think that's the last alien-centric movie that Steven Spielberg has done. So, kind of gives credence, I would say, to this theory. Emily Blunt stars alongside Josh O'Connor and Colman Domingo, Colin Firth, and Eve Hewson. It's worth noting that June 12th is also the current release date for Scary Movie 6, with the Wayans brothers returning to bring the spoof franchise back to life for Paramount. Even more recently, Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment produced the Netflix docuseries Encounters last year, which explores true stories of human contact with otherworldly phenomena. You can stream all 4 episodes of Encounters over on Netflix right now. The untitled event movie comes courtesy of Amblin and Universal. Stay tuned for more. So, what do we think? Like, yeah, agreed. This agreed. Another Mr. Lizard. Yeah, right, Brian. Christian Harloff is probably hyped for this. Indeed. Which, by the way, I'm going to be on Christian's show next week, next Wednesday. I'll be on the Christian Harloff show. Sam says Coleman Domingo is a good get. Absolutely, I love Coleman Domingo. Big fan. Yes. ZSH points out, speaking of Spielberg, he was just at the SNL 50th anniversary show. Weirdly, he wasn't involved in the actual show, just in the audience watching it. I did see that, but I noticed too, like, isn't there a bit in the, is there a bit in the Jason Reitman movie about Steven Spielberg being there for some reason? Am I making that up? I haven't seen the Jason Reitman SNL movie, but I was at dinner last night and there were some people talking about it. And I thought, but then again, I've been in SNL 50 kind of mode. So it's all sort of blending together, which we will talk about in just a minute. Let's see. Nicholas says, I'm all in for anything Spielberg. He has always been my director hero. Oh my God. Brian Knight says, it would be hilarious if the movie is actually E.T. 2. That honestly, Brian, yes, that would absolutely be hilarious. Alan Smithy says, Spielberg was in the Blues Brothers movie. That's almost like being on SNL. That's true. That's a good point. So I just wanted to shout that out because the last time Steven Spielberg played in the Alien sandbox as a director was War of the Worlds, and I really like War of the Worlds. We did a whole episode on it on Wolfe's Call many years ago, and I just think it's a great movie, and I think it's one of Spielberg's, like, I don't know. It was a very special time. Actually, less about Spielberg and more about Tom Cruise. For my money, War of the Worlds was the last time, I would argue, that Tom Cruise didn't have shark eyes. Like, I just feel like he, for the last 20 years, has been doing his thing. I'm an action star. This is what I do. I make action movies. I'm a movie star. I'm Tom Cruise. I make action movies. Totally fine. He's Tom Cruise. He can do whatever he wants. But I think it's very easy to forget because he hasn't really taken an acting role that has required him to play a character that is different than what he has been playing as Ethan Hunt or in some of these more. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying he's not making good movies. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, for me, War of the Worlds is the last performance from him where I felt like, oh yeah, Tom Cruise is like really acting. Like, he really showed up. And he's doing all the action star stuff as well. But I think he's really, really great in that movie. And yeah, War of the Worlds was 20 years ago. I know. I mean, it's been a long time. Hey, Andrew, good to see you. Nicholas says, Saturday Night was my favorite movie and there was no scene with Spielberg. Okay, I'm making things up. And of course, since Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch, he's never been the same. Even Spielberg won't work with him anymore. Well, this was the press tour for War of the Worlds. That incident, the whole thing, in Tom Cruise's history, he fired Paula Wagner, his like longtime producing partner. Or he split, I shouldn't say fired. He split with Paula Wagner around this time. Didn't collaborate with Spielberg again, like the whole deal. That was on the press tour for War of the Worlds. So just saying. Oh, cool. ZSH, you got to go to the set while they were filming. Didn't get to meet Steven or Tom, though. Well, they were probably working. Fair enough, I suppose. Okay. What's next on our agenda? Oh. And then we'll get to SNL, because I do want to do like that recap But um this was really exciting news for me. Sean Sean Byrne, who directed The Devil's Candy and The Loved Ones, which we were talking about Devil's Candy and how it was so underappreciated a couple of weeks ago. And so I saw that his new movie is coming, and Shutter has acquired it. So IFC Films and Shutter by buzzy horror thriller Dangerous Animals. So this is an exclusive report. Was today? Yeah, from today, about Sean Byrne's latest film. So let's read on. I wish this would get out of the way. Um, Pairing the serial killer genre, what, with sharksploitation, Dangerous Animals was penned by Nick Leopard. Okay, first of all, this sounds, I mean, all the words I just said. A person named Nick Leopard, unless I'm saying it wrong, wrote a movie called Dangerous Animals. My last name is Wolfe, so I feel like we should team up and write a sequel called More Dangerous Animals by Leopard and Wolfe. That'd be kind of great, right? Stars Jai Courtney, as you know. Also, just going to interject my favorite YouTube comment of all time, back from the AMC Collider movie talk days. Clarke Wolfe is the Jai Courtney of movie talk. I'll never forget that. I will never forget that comment. It was so funny. And you're looking at the Jai Courtney of movie talk here. All right. Stars Jai Courtney, Hassie Harrison, and Josh Houston. The movie will get a wide release exclusively in theaters on June 6th. Oh no. Sorry, I'm sharing the complete wrong tab. Dangerous Animals follows Zephyr, a rebellious surfer who is abducted by a shark-obsessed serial killer. Held captive on his boat, she must escape before he carries out a ritualistic feeding to the sharks below. Shutter's SVP of Acquisitions and Productions, Emily Gatto, said, Sean Byrne is one of the most visceral filmmakers in the current genre space, and we are thrilled to join forces with him again on Dangerous Animals. That's right. IFC, I believe, is the one that released Devil's Candy a couple years after it premiered at Fantastic Fest. In this film, he ventures boldly into two of horror's most terrifying realms, serial killers and sharks. What a time. Fusing them into a singularly intense and ferocious spectacle. Prepare for a groundbreaking cinematic experience that will leave you breathless this summer. Byrne had previously collaborated with IFC on The Devil's Candy, which was a genre hit and played at Stitches in 2015. He says, I'm delighted to be back with my IFC family, together with my dear friends at LD, Brouhaha, Oddfellows, and Range. I can't wait to unleash Dangerous Animals this summer. There have been a lot of shark films over the years, but I promise none like this, where audiences are left to decipher who the deadliest creature really is, man or animal. It's a survival horror experience with teeth that screams to be seen on the big screen. I mean, are we in or are we in? Hey, Jonathan. Great to see you. Welcome. Vincent says, I remember for the Ready Player One press tour cruise. Okay, costed the set. Oh, what does that mean? Costed the set. Tell me more. Oh my gosh, another Mr. Lizard. What a time. Alvaro says, I love The Devil's Candy and The Loved Ones, such underrated gems. The Loved Ones is a great Valentine's Day watch. I love it. Love it. Love it. Welcome, Jonathan. We had Michael Kennedy for the first hour, so be sure to go back and listen to him talk all things industry and hard eyes and all of the above. Okay. SNL's 50th. So, did y'all catch up on this? Did you watch any of the specials this weekend? I did. Um, I watched as much as I could. I started watching a little late um in terms of like the Sunday night special, but I did catch Paul McCartney's performance. I caught the Scared Straight sketch with Eddie Murphy, which was hilarious. Um and I watched a couple of the performances. I'm trying to find the concert. Cher's performance incredible, Robin incredible, Lady Gaga and Andy Samberg kicking off the Lonely Island melody, so good. I don't have Peacock, so I can only watch so much, but I really hope that they put it all onto I hope they put it all online because I want to see it. Nicholas says, speaking of SNL, it was great that they not only re aired the very first episode this past Saturday, they also posted it to YouTube. It was great to watch, uh, especially after seeing Saturday night. A lot of the stories added up. I just love this comment, Stephanie. Shark hype. So, but yeah, did you guys watch? Did you see these clips? Um, oh my gosh, the drama. So much drama. Jeez Louise. Just what a time. Um, yep, Paul McCartney, of course, closed out the special. A lot of greatest hits. That's right. Aubrey Plaza made her first appearance after her husband's death. Very sad. Very, very sad. Tom Hanks was on in the Black Jeopardy sketch. Love. Oh, Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian. I mean, there was just so much news out of the Saturday Night Live weekend this weekend. Kind of crazy. Um, all right, John Mulaney making the murder joke, of course. And everyone was up in arms because Ryan Reynolds made a little comment about the elephant in the room. So minor. Cannot believe everybody lost their minds over that. Mike says, I watched the Sunday one and I was kind of disappointed. So many people flubbed their lines and it was kind of distracting to me. Yeah, it didn't seem like they had a full rehearsal. Jonathan Peck says, you know what's funny about Kevin Costner's appearance is that he never actually hosted SNL before. That's crazy. He doesn't strike me as much of a theater guy, meaning like a live performance guy, you know? Brian says, very entertaining specials. Another Mr. Lizard says, do people in the US find SNL funny? I got to tell you, everyone has their favorite eras. Oh my gosh, and then, yeah, Adam Sandler did his song, which was really pretty. It was a really beautiful little song, but still really funny. Adam Sandler did it. I loved it. I loved his performance, and it was very heartfelt for all the people that have passed, and, but to answer your question, another Mr. Lizard, I still find the Tina Fey and Maya Rudolph and Amy Poehler and, you know, Armisen and Will Ferrell, you know, that whole crew, like that generation, I think is really funny still. I rewatched the cowbell sketch because YouTube, so SNL's YouTube is putting up like classic sketches so you can rewatch, you know. And I rewatched the cowbell sketch, which I love, and I rewatched Debbie Downer, where they're at Disneyland and Lindsay Lohan is the guest and Ray, they just cannot keep a straight face. And I love when Will Ferrell does Robert Goulet. I think that's very very funny. So yeah, I mean, oh, another Mr. Lizard said it doesn't air in UK at all. Wow. That's great. I mean, you know, it's very like I think in the way that Americans found and find Monty Python, you know, or which from you know England, and then of course there's a lot of Canadian comedy, Kids in the Hall, you know, etc. That like we found and have down here, which is great. but I think SNL is definitely like an American culture moment. But um I will say that we were talking about this a little bit after the Super Bowl. We were talking about this a little bit like in general, like a monoculture. Like we as a culture used to talk about Saturday Night Live like the day after Saturday Night Live aired, right? You go into work on Monday and everyone's talking about SNL, right? And like I think to me, in watching all of these music specials or like trip down memory lane celebrating 50 years of Saturday Night Live, that to me was the thing that really sort of stood out was I mean, when I was a kid, the old episodes of Saturday Night Live ran on Comedy Central. So I watched, you know, episodes that came way before I was even, watching television and learned and like understood, about the legacy of that comedy. And so, yeah, I think that that's what's a bummer is like, we all kind of used to watch this one thing and then talk about it and it's sad that we don't really have that anymore. Also, I'm a huge Lonely Island fan. I love the Lonely Island. I I love them. I love their I just love them. So, that was another place where, you know, Andy and well, the Lonely Island kind of YouTube, like, and YouTube coming together, like, truly, it sounds silly, but that was a huge moment for YouTube. Um, yeah, again, like culture changed. It's wild. It sounds silly, but like it really happened. I remember it happened. Anyway, Jonathan says, I never thought it in my lifetime to see Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell and a skit and is glorious. I loved having them together too. Um, ZSH says, I thought it was very dark and bitter, but ultimately exactly what SNL has always been at its core. Being from New York, New Jersey, it represented the monsters we really are around here very well. Wait, what are you talking about, CSH? Give me more details. Um, Nicholas says the anniversary shows are usually great because they highlight the best moments of every era and usually live up to their fame. Brian says everyone has their favorite era of Saturday Night Live. This current era will be someone's favorite in a few years. It's why SNL has been around for 50 years. This is true. This is true. Um, let's see. I tell lies. Oh, another Mr. Lizard says I tell lies. It does air here on a pay channel. And Gishgali says that podcast is a great way to start every week. Which podcast, Gishgali? Yeah, Jonathan, I was disappointed that that hater didn't show up either. I mean, I know he says it was like because of his anxiety, but whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Take care of yourself. Do what you got to do. It is what it is. Um, let's see. I figured, do you guys want to do maybe one more? Do you want to do the Twisted Metal season 2 trailer? Okay, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about how Twisted Metal was a show that happened on Peacock, and that I remembered getting decent reviews, maybe, or at least I was excited for it. But then it didn't really like make a it didn't really make uh like a huge sort of like mark, and then now we're getting a season 2 of Twisted Metal, which I thought was, oh, gish golly, Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. I guess I didn't realize they had one, but that sounds great. Um, Andrew says, I'm bummed that Dan Aykroyd didn't show up to the anniversary show since he went to all the others. Yeah, why didn't Dan Aykroyd show up? What does Yahoo have to say? Hmm. A source close to Aykroyd confirmed that he could not come to the event. Yeah, well, he didn't come, so that's the confirmation, I suppose. Um, yeah, I wonder why he wasn't there. So this article is nothing. This article says nothing. Oh yeah, why wasn't Dana Carvey there? Okay, let's see. Variety has learned that Carvey had been struck with a bad flu and was too under the weather to attend. Oh, that would explain why he wasn't there, but his buddy and podcast partner David Spade did participate. Um, let's see. Bill Hader also didn't come. Sure. According to a rep, Hader was unable to make the event due to a long-standing scheduling conflict. And Aykroyd's decision to bow out was due to prior commitments. The rest of the surviving original not ready for primetime cast was in the building. I saw that Lorraine and Jane held up Gilda Radner's photo, which I thought was really wonderful. But Dan Aykroyd commented on X, proud co-founder of SNL along with everyone. Bob, so no bad blood, I suppose. Oh, here we go. In a November interview with the AV Club, Aykroyd had spelled out some conditions for his involvement. Quote, "It depends on how I can serve. Let me put it that way. How I can serve them best. How I can serve Lauren and the whole enterprise best. That'll determine whether I go or not." What? So salty. What's happening? Others missing were 2 Weekend Update alums, Colin Quinn and Dennis Miller. Quinn had posted on his X account that he was performing stand-up. Man, what a time. What a time. Yeah, I guess we did. Mike Myers was there as Linda Richman. I liked that one. They teamed up with Maya and Amy doing the "So what? Who cares? So what?" Which I love. Or no. Have you seen this? Wait. So what? Who cares? Is Fred Armisen as Joy Behar. The sweater weather ladies. I like the sweater weather ladies. Okay, Freaky Tales trailer it is. Let's do it. We'll close out on that. Freaky Tales trailer. All right, I haven't watched it. But here we go. Ooh.
The underdog believes he can do the impossible. Defeat the bully, sell enough mixtapes to get out of the hood. But I can say with certainty, this underdog has seen his last day.
Yo, wait, hold up. We got to take it from the top.
We got one more job for you. Sleepy Floyd, Warriors point guard. His house is going to be empty on game night. He's got a vault full of ancient Asian artifacts.
Yesterday was the last job.
Trailer is a vibe.
I'm done.
You're done when we say you're done.
Fuck you.
What happened next has been debated over the years. But this is the tale as I know it to be.
I found it!
Did you see that? Yeah. That's so rad.
You don't expect it. Hi, I'm Sleepy Floyd. Floyd's out there slicing people up with a sword.
Can you repeat that?
Wasn't every day a story like this hit the town.
There's too many of them.
That's bullshit. We fight.
But for those who lived through it,
It's a fun trailer.
it became the stuff of legends.
Very stylish.
What happened here?
You fucked with the wrong warrior.
Nice. Love that. That was fun. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that experience? I like this role for Pedro. Oh, what? And Tom Hanks in theaters April 4th. Oh my. Set in Oakland, 1987, Freaky Tales is a multi-track mixtape of colorful characters on a collision course in a fever dream of showdowns and battles. Executive produced by hip-hop pioneer Too Short and featuring an all-star ensemble cast. This pulpy blend of explosive action, edgy humor, gory kills, and sly twists makes for one wild ride. Let's see. There's no escape from Pedro Pascal. You know, it's funny. Last night I was at dinner and one of the guys I was with was talking about The Last of Us and kind of how he was saying like, yeah, I like Pedro Pascal, but like I feel like he kind of just plays the same character and everything. And I was like, very interesting. I don't know, but at the same time, this seems very different for Pedro. Brian says kind of got Sin City vibes. Mike Joyce says, I see Pedro, I watch. Nicholas says, I'm in for that. The directors are very good, so I'm interested. Oh, yeah, Jonathan Peck, great point. Tom Hanks is from Oakland, so that makes sense. That is a good point. You know what this trailer reminds me of? One of my favorite movies I've seen in a while. It's called Low Life, and it is directed by Ryan Prowse. And I didn't mean to put this into YouTube, but this is it here. But wait, from 2018, Low Life movie. If you guys haven't seen this one kind of really flew under the radar. And again, it was, this came out at a time just right before streaming really became a way that people found things. Obviously streaming was a thing, but not like this, like not like it is now. And I feel like Low Life would have been a movie that people would have just lost their mind over. But it's a very loose anthology and I loved this movie. I loved Low Life. If you haven't had the chance to see it, highly recommend. And yeah, so check it out. Directed by Ryan Prowse and gave me vibes for sure of what we just watched. So what does chat have to say? CSH says, I mean, is there a more inspiring career arc story than Pedro's? Absolutely. He's been at it for so long. Nicholas says, Pedro has always played great range of characters. How can anyone think he plays the same character? I think maybe what this guy was saying was like, it seems like he's just always kind of playing a version of himself. I don't know. I love Pedro Pascal. I think he's very versatile. He's one of my favorite parts of Wonder Woman 1984. Love the Viper and the Mountain. I mean, don't love, but yeah, I think he's great. So, who can say? Alvaro says, I don't think Pedro plays the same character all the time, but his biggest roles seem to be similar. That's fair. That's fair. So here we go. That's my high praise for Low Life. Love it. Here for it. And yeah. All right, y'all. This was a good day. We did a lot today. We did a lot of housekeeping. Nicholas says, no way his performance in Kingsman 2 alone is off the charts. And Sam says, exactly. If you only watch the biggest mainstream roles, that's the case for most actors. Touche. Very true. All right, y'all. So thank you for being here today. This was a lot of fun. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Michael Kennedy. If you joined a little later, you can go back and you can watch it. Michael was with us for the first hour. As a reminder, if you are a $10 and higher subscriber on Patreon, go vote on the day that you want to watch our watch along movie and go throw some ideas into the comments on Patreon for what we can watch. Because I want you guys to get an experience that you enjoy. And what else was I going to say? I can't remember. The Discord. Oh yeah. Well, we did a lot of companion talk today. So if you've joined the Discord, you can go chime in on the companion spoiler thread. We can talk more. Brian Knight says, breaking news from THR. Joseph Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer are making a film that's described as All the President's Men with UFOs. Wait a minute. Do I know what that is? Have I heard about it? I can't remember. Hi, Ronan. Ronan says, Viva Pedro Pascal. I'm so glad you all, thank you, Nicholas. And thank you all for being here. Let me check one more time my notes because I always forget. What else? Nope, that's it. All right, y'all. This was great. Thanks again. And I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. And just as a reminder, from now on, we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, but same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you again on Thursday. Bye, everyone.